lot of important work, but today she's going to talk to you guys about mental health. So please listen. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to her. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Guys, again, my apologies to you for had an overlap of presentations. So, again, Rod said, my name is Alice Jordan Miles. I am a professor at Purdue University Fort Wayne. It's really hard to wear black and yellow because I am a proud IU alum, but my paycheck cashes very well. I am the director of the Behavioral Health Family Studies Institute. I'm a professor. I teach law and ethics at Purdue University. I am also the director of the Indiana Suicide Prevention Coalition. And then lastly, and more importantly, I lead Indiana's LOSS team. And what that stands for, Local Outreach for Suicide Survivors. So with that being said, how many of you in here have been touched by suicide? Don't be ashamed. Raise your hand. Okay. You know what? First and foremost, I'm sorry for the losses that you have. What I do with my LOSS team is we go and help families who've been touched by suicide, because you know suicide grief is a totally different kind of grief. You know, nobody's going over with casseroles and cakes. They say some very, very, very insensitive things. I was just at a suicide funeral on Monday in which a neighbor went up to the mom, and the young person who died was 14. And the neighbor said to the parent, to the mom, Lucy, I'm going to pray for you, but I'm not going to pray for him because he's in hell. There's so much stigma around mental health. There's so much stigma about help-seeking behaviors for young men such as yourselves. And it's important that we normalize talking about our mental health. We talk about our ACLs, we talk about, concussions, we talk about everything else. We have to start talking about our mental health, folks, because otherwise we're going to have too many people die by suicide. Do you realize that among your age group, suicide is the second leading cause of death? The second leading cause of death. And in Indiana, a youth dies every 2.25 days. And when I say youth, that's anywhere from the age of 5 to 21. Does anyone want to guess what's the youngest age that someone's died by suicide in Indiana? Go ahead, Nate. It was 7. And we thought we had problems. So I'm challenging each and every one of you to not only have hope for your future, but have hope in knowing that mental health is real. Everybody has it. Who has mental health? Raise your hand. We all have mental health. And don't be ashamed of it. We're not ashamed of our physical health, are we? Absolutely not. So we need to focus and understand that our mental health is real. Football players especially. You guys have this persona that we're tough and we can't ask for help. We can't say that my brain is hurting because I don't want to be called a pussy. You know what? It takes a lot of courage to ask for help. And you should never be ashamed of it. I stand here before you because I suffer from depression each and every day. Days like today are kind of hard for me because I need the sun. I attempted suicide when I was 16. And by the grace of my higher power, for me, is my God. And because of my God, I'm standing here before you to tell you about it. Our problems in life are very temporary. And it's so very important, guys. I can't tell you how important it is that you start practicing coping skills. Because life is going to get tougher. As you go to college, it's going to get tougher. As you get into adulthood, it's going to get tougher. So it's important now that you start practicing or adopting some coping skills that are applicable to you. Because what works for me may not work for you, or Rod or Shelly. For me, it's walking, doing Zumba, in my garden, in my yard, mowing the grass, because my husband can't mow straight yards, straight lines. I think he does it on purpose, actually, because I know. But I just can't stress it enough that if you're hurting inside, ask for help. Ask for help. There was 2 young men in North Carolina that died by suicide that are football players within a week because they didn't make the A team, or because somebody was making fun of him because of, he didn't have the top rated cleats, and he came from a house with very little means, and he was wearing the same cleats that his brother wore when he played football. It's important, guys, that we need to adopt coping skills that will make you get through those hard times. Because those hard times they're in abundance sometimes. And you need to be able to deal with it. So I'm going to challenge. I stand here before you, challenging you, each and every one of you, to be the voice that mental health is real. And more importantly, it's important that, number one, it's okay to just be okay. It's also okay not to be okay. The life is not perfect, and believe me, as you get older, it's gonna get tougher. And and when you guys go back to school, as an educator myself, it's gonna be a lot different. Going back and instead of having your home, you get an assignment virtually on Monday, and you don't have to have it due till Friday. You're gonna have stuff that's gonna be due the next day. You've got football practice. For those of you who are having to work 1 or even 2 or 3 jobs to help support your family, get those coping skills and understand that if you're hurting, don't be ashamed. Because for those of you also who have younger siblings, especially if they're brothers, you need to set the example. Set the example that asking for help for your mental health isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of courage. So here are the top mental health challenges facing high school students. There's depression, there's anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, self-injury. Does anybody know what self-injury is? Cutting. So I just got back from a conference. Who do you think is cutting more, boys or girls?
Girls.
Wrong. What type of boys?
Emo.
No. Athletes. So if we're talking athletes, where are boys cutting? No, because boys play shirt and skins. Shirts, that you guys take communal showers. You're cutting, you're growing.
Oh, heck no.
And the thing is that you're not, young men are not dying from the cut, you're dying from the infection. Because you're too ashamed to ask for help because you did something that maybe you weren't thinking clearly and you wanted to exert some pain, and I can't tell you why people cut. I'm not a cutter. I can't explain, but I can tell you this from what people have told me. They cut to experience the pain and they'll cope with whatever life issues is giving them. I have a young man in my support group right now. He's 6 years old. You know how he's cutting? He's stapling his cheeks. You know how you staple corkboard? He staples his cheeks. And cutting doesn't necessarily mean taking a sharp object. I have another young man who's 9 years old that took an eraser and erased his flesh. And because both his parents were doctors, they were too ashamed to get that young man help. And because of that, this young man now has his arm amputated from the elbow down. And here are 2 professionals, 2 parents that did not want his son to go to the emergency room at a location of their workplace because they were ashamed. We should not be ashamed, people. We can no longer be ashamed of our mental health. I think one thing has told us about COVID, or shared with us, one good thing that has come from COVID, is that everybody understands that mental health affects everyone. Mental health and suicide does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. And it can affect everyone if you don't have those coping skills. And you know, I understand we all come from homes that aren't all the best homes. I come from a family of 14 kids, 12 boys and 2 girls. And when I attempted suicide, it was because I wanted my parents to see me. I wanted my parents to hear me. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. And when you're not getting that at home, folks, don't think there's no one out there to help you. I'm here to help you. I have my business cards. To call me, to email me. I'll come to you. I may not have the right answers, but I want you to know that I value you. I see you and I hear you. So please don't, if you don't have a great relationship with your parents, don't think that there's no one out there to help you, because there is help available. There is always someone to talk to. Always.
It was a heartbreak. To use a young man who was so promising, so intelligent. I mean, he was special. He was a one of a kind.
Deerfield Beach High School head football coach Javon Glenn says his star wide receiver Bryce Gowdy wasn't just a great player, but also an outstanding student and a mentor to others. Hundreds turned out at this vigil to remember him and to pay respect to his mother and brothers. Glenn says Bryce sometimes shared his worries over leaving his family behind in perilous circumstances.
Those are the things that tore away at his heart.
Bryce was set to start college next week at Georgia Tech.
And after I told him, we made it, baby. We're almost there. I knew in the back of my mind that we could just get him to Saturday. We had already contacted Georgia Tech and kind of made them aware of some of the issues, made them aware of some of the struggles.
But there was a 1-week gap between final exams and going to Georgia. And with school closed for the holidays, Glenn says Bryce had no one to buoy him up as his worries increased.
The thing that changed everything is he had a week, he had 6 days with no safety net.
Monday night, Bryce left his mother and brothers behind in a motel room and walked into the path of a freight train. Friday, his saddened friends and teammates held candles to the sky and released balloons into the night.
It really touched me that he died, or he died.
Get help. We always have counselors at the school. We are here for them. If they need a call me. I'm here.
Glenn says a plan to get Bryce's mother and brothers into a residential program for the homeless had just fallen through, and he doesn't think Bryce could deal with that uncertainty.
And ultimately, I feel like that's kind of what broke him.
The coach and the school are still working on trying to help Bryce's mother and brothers find a permanent place to live, and a GoFundMe account has already been set up. Terry Parker, WPBF 25 News.
Think about
It
that.
was a heartbreak.
Think about that. That could very well have been you. That young man, even though he was surrounded by his teammates and came from a loving family, he did not believe that his life was worth living. And the pain was so intense. Think about throwing yourself in front of a freight train. Next time you get stopped by a train, think about this young man. And think about the pain that was so intense for him that he felt that there was no other option. Guys, there's so many options out there. Never give up hope in trying to find someone to assist you to whatever degree that you're needing. And know that your life is worth living. You may come from an environment that perhaps is not indicative of that. But I'm here to tell you that there is help out there. And as athletes, you guys have a very, very important role in your schools. Many students put you up on a pedestal. Your peers put you up on a pedestal. And you need to lead by example. If you're hurting, share it. Don't be ashamed about it. If you have an earache or a toothache, we tell people. When we have a broken leg, we tend to run over and sign somebody's cast. But nobody's running over to sign someone's pill bottle or someone's counseling session. We need to start encouraging and supporting people who need help and commend them for being so courageous that they do. And never be ashamed to go to a counselor. Never. And you know what? If you've tried counseling and it wasn't good for you, You know, when you go and get your hair cut, you get your fade or whatever, and they cut it wrong, do you stop getting your hair cut? No. You keep on trying to find another barber that will set you up right. The same thing with your mental health, everyone. If you got a counselor that you just didn't connect with, okay, that's okay. That doesn't mean anything about that counselor. You just need to find someone. You need to use that same energy and that same momentum that we do for our physical appearance, for our mental health. So don't stop looking. And if you need some help finding a therapist, I got tons of people. Because myself, I went to 16 therapists till I found one that saved my life. She saved my life. And you need to use that same energy to save your life if you're struggling. I can't stress that enough. So here are some coping skills. Looking after your mental health. You know, do something you're good at, that you're proud about. You know, connect with others, get a good night's sleep, talk to somebody. You know, I understand you guys don't talk on the phone. I understand that. You know, I have a daughter that went go to the prom with this young man because he called her. I'm like, what? He goes, Mom, who calls anybody anymore? So, you know, it's like, what the heck? I couldn't understand that, but okay. So, you know, develop some coping skills, talk to people, be physically active, eat well, but be true to yourself. Because again, what works for me may not work for you, or you, or you. So you need to start thinking about those coping skills that are available to you right now. I understand that sometimes if you're walking in the hallway and you see someone who's just, you know, wowsy, woo-woo, everybody's making fun of them because of their clothes or whatever, and you know you want to help them, but it's kind of awkward. You know what? We've gotten to a point in society that you must seize the awkward. You must, because you will never understand the struggle or the journey someone has been walking. Because we all have a struggle if we want to realize it or admit it. So if that person, maybe you're the only person that sees that young man or young girl struggling. And you need to take that captured opportunity to seize the awkward. And what I mean by that is that life is awkward. Relationships among young people is awkward. So you must seize the awkward. So hopefully this video will give you the support that you need to ask someone if they're okay.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me. Here. Here. Or maybe even you. You tried to avoid me, then there I am again. But an awkward silence can be a great thing. Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
An awkward silence can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down. Starting the conversation now could stop something much worse from happening later on. Doesn't matter how you say.
Alright.
Everything's okay?
G.
Yo, what up?
You alright, girl? You cool?
Bug and dog.
Just show you're there for them. Go on, Gilly. Seize the awkward.
I'm always here for you. Okay? Okay.
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at
Seize the awkward.org. Please seize the awkward, because again, that may be the only time that someone sees that individual who's struggling. Okay, this young man here is Mitch Lansley. The other young man is Sterling Fair. These are two young men out of North Carolina that took their life a couple months ago. They were both juniors. They were very promising. One young man had already signed up to go to the United States Marines. These kids, these young men look like you guys. And unfortunately, they didn't see any hope. They didn't have any hope. They didn't seize the opportunity. And it's important that you understand that young men feel, again, a sign of weakness if they ask for help. It's a sign of being courageous. And again, being a football player, you can set a tone in your circle, in your network, in your classrooms. Please do so, because you never know when you're gonna save someone's life. Another young man, does anybody recognize this guy here? Anyone? Does New York Jets? Rod, do you?
Jets.
He has an organization called Dream the Impossible. He's had so many young people, so many colleagues, so many football players that have taken their lives. So he started the Dream Impossible. And this particular organization is an organization specifically for athletes, football players of the minority community. And if you're wanting specific resources that are maybe, whether it's, girlfriend problems, homework problems, school problems, life problems, this is a great website to go to, because be the change we need to break the vicious cycle stigma towards mental health. We have to break the stigma. So we have to be the voice. So up here is what we have an opportunity for you to be the voice, to be the leader of suicide prevention and mental health awareness. In Fort Wayne, in September, we have a walk every year, and it's called the Out of Darkness Walk. And it's individuals who walk in memory of someone they've lost to suicide, and also to bring awareness about mental health. So that's one option, or one suggestion I give to you, that maybe your football team, put together a team and walk for the sake of those who've died by suicide, or also to be the voice of mental health. So there are some resources. We have, suicide prevention hotline, and I brought a whole bunch of stuff for you guys that will encourage and talk to you or give you some resources. The suicide prevention hotline, 1-800-273-8255. These aren't people who work at McDonald's during the day that are answering these phone calls and these texts. These are licensed therapists, counselors that are trained to save your life mentally. And then Remedy Life, if you're a person who is of faith, Remedy Life has their own text line, 494949. You text. The people who return your response are what we call soul medics, S-O-U-L. And why I say that, or why I mention that, is because they will reference a religion of faith in their response to you. So I just wanted you to know that. So if you're a person of faith, God made therapists too. Don't be ashamed to ask for help beyond your minister or your priest. And then I have counseling. Don't be ashamed to ask for counseling. Please. So here's my final thought. Give your mind the same attention you give your penis. You need to. It's important to understand that your penis ain't working if your mind ain't working. Okay? I'm going to be real with you. I'm very straightforward. Because your life is in my hands. And I don't take that lightly, and neither of you should ever take mental health lightly. Thank you. Any questions? Come on, give me a question. Give me a question. Come on. Give me a question. Am I famous? Let me see. I'm famous to my dog. That's it. You know what? Come on up here, man. Come on, give me another question. Go ahead, young man.
How many people do you think you saved? Like just in 2 hours?
I can tell you this. I've been doing this work for 15 years, and I've been told over and over again, thank you for saving my life. And this one lady, she came to a training I did, And, long story short, she said, after the training, she goes, Alice, thank you for saving my life. I'm going to blink. And I was gathering my things, and I could tell in my peripheral vision that she was like hanging around. I'm like, oh, she wants to talk some more. Oh my God. So I'm walking out, and she says, would you mind if I walk with you? And I said, sure, absolutely. And it just so happened that God had us parked right next to each other when we went out to the parking lot. And she took me by my shoulders, and she said, Alice, thank you for saving my life. I mean that. And I go, okay, sure, no problem, ma'am. I'll be in contact. You have my card. She goes, would you mind getting that .45 revolver that's underneath my seat in the car? I thought she was lying. So she gave me her keys. I opened her door. I went underneath her seat, and it was the first time in my entire life I ever held a gun. And it was already clocked, and it had full bullets. So you never underestimate the power of connection. But I'll tell you this, another thing. I have a son who's addicted to heroin. It's a really tough pill to swallow, but I could save all kids, all kinds of kids and people. But I can't save my own. So know that you all have a purpose. You all need to help one another. I'm not asking you to sit around the fireplace and sing Kumbaya. I'm not saying that, but everybody deserves to be seen, and everybody deserves to be heard, no matter where you come from or what you look like. Thank you for that question. Any other question? Anybody in here been depressed? Raise your hand, don't be ashamed. All of you who raise your hand, stand up. All of you who raise your hand, stand up. Thank you for being courageous. So come on up here and get as much swag as you